Let me ask you a question. If you had a time machine, would you want to go back into the past of your own history and change anything about it so that you could experience a different version of yourself today? Is there anything that you regret doing or not doing, which led to the consequences you are still dealing with today? If your relationship with time is such that you wish you could change the past in order to experience a different present moment and future state, then there's something very key that you are still not seeing about your role as a vessel of consciousness and a time traveler, because that is who you are whether or not you realize it. See, in your field of consciousness, you have the ability to time travel at any moment, and you're actually doing this all the time without realizing it. If you're in a state of suffering, you're actually riding the time machine that is suffering and choosing to relive the past moments, leading to the same collapsing of energetic potentiality in the present moment that keeps you in that state of trauma. If you're experiencing anything that feels deterministic, stable, keeping you in a certain feeling of either linear progression or a sense of stagnation, then you're refusing to see that you're actually equipped to take that past situation and to use it to experience a completely different present moment and future state. And this actually has nothing to do with time at all. It has everything to do with your relationship to time itself, and that ultimately defines the way that your reality is experienced. This phenomenon of using your consciousness to relate to time in different ways is actually known as chronesthesia, or mental time travel. It's the way in which you relate to the memories that you have already experienced, which are episodic in nature, meaning when you think back to any event or situation that you've already experienced, you feel a certain way relative to those episodic memories. And the reaction that those memories elicit in your field end up creating the way you experience yourself in the present moment. If you're constantly reliving certain past experiences that either create a positive or a negative reaction within your field, you are using those memories and traveling back in time, so to speak, to experience yourself as that past version of yourself. Now, from a higher dimensional perspective, time doesn't really exist. It's entirely an illusion that your brain is using to derive meaning and differences between yourself relative to these different frames of your reality. You can think of your entire life as a sequence of events chained together through the different reactions that you experience to life itself. The changes in your own state of your consciousness defines the impact of time on you. If you're changing the way that you feel over time, if you're maturing in your awareness, in your development, in your psyche, then you're experiencing the so-called effects of time on your physicality. For example, people that grow older tend to be more mature, or we often think that wisdom is acquired over continual time, meaning that the more that you're exposed to life itself, the more that you experience yourself in a mature manner. However, this isn't due to how life is treating you differently over time. It's due to your own maturing experiences relative to life itself, meaning that time itself is simply a construct that we use to describe the variation within our own field over the course of the continuum of change. If you feel that you want to get into that time machine and experience your reality differently, the truth is that you're currently relating to time in such a way that you can only perceive linearity rather than flow. If you feel that you need to change something about your past, you are not seeing that you are not actually a derivative of your past at all. You are simply an experiencer of your past reality, with the ability to either perceive the same condition that you had experienced in the past or a new one. If you are feeling like you want to change the past, you are not choosing to change your present condition, your present thoughts, your present feelings, your present perceptions, and your present opinions to experience a totally new reality relative to your current state of consciousness. This is a very similar phenomenon to the concept of quantum jumping. If you want to change the way that your reality feels, you need to change not your reality but your own state of consciousness, meaning that you need to focus solely on what's happening in your inner world to reflect a new expectation about your reality, And that is how reality ends up feeling different. And changing your relationship to yourself will change the way that reality feels to you. This means that if there's anything in your past that is still troubling you, you're probably missing an important aspect of what that experience created in your own field, which is leading to the perpetuation of those same feelings inside of your being. For example, if you're feeling that the past created certain trauma that is now replicating itself in the present moment through new scenarios that are playing out similar patterns, you're probably missing the aspect of yourself that is still serving as the intermediary. If you're not seeing how you are still choosing to maintain, let's say, the same self-perception that you did in the past, as a result of those traumatic experiences in your life, you may not be seeing how you're still feeding the algorithm of reality with the same perception of yourself, leading to the similar outcomes. This has nothing to do with the grip of the past on you. It has everything to do with the way you relate to yourself in the now moment, which may be fixed in nature due to the effect of the past on your own mind. Mental time travel is really about choosing to see that you can always re-access past memories and change your perception to them, which gives you ultimate freedom in navigating yourself as a vessel of consciousness, not as a being that is simply the amalgamation of past experiences that are now repeated in the subsequent moments of time. But you start to see yourself rather as a vehicle of choice. You start to see that you have the ability to, in every new moment of reality, change the script, change the program, look at yourself completely differently, reinforce new possibilities, and approach life in a more open-ended way because you realize nothing is actually binding you to time. Time is simply the concourse of change, which you can approach with an open mind and an open heart to experience a totally new reality unfolding before your eyes. Many people view time as an oppressive factor in their reality, either feeling that time is not on their side, they have too little time, they're running out of time because they're getting old, or they're choosing to exclude themselves from certain opportunities, which would give them the chance to experience time differently. The truth is that timing is a universal factor. It's occurring outside of us, outside of our perception of ourselves, and even our perception of reality. Timing is that magical ingredient that comes in when we choose to surrender the grip of our ego and we perceive ourselves outside of time and space. When you perceive yourself as a soul that is unlimited, that can experience any possibilities based on your own energetic alignment to and with them, you'll feel that time is never a factor that discriminates in your reality. Time is simply that undercurrent that provides you the ability to think and feel differently, because with every new moment of time, you have new opportunities presenting themselves to experience new timelines. Think of it this way. What you're now feeling describes your present identity and your present reality, is a certain timeline that you are able to visualize your existence on. This timeline includes every single thing that you've experienced up until this now moment. Where this timeline takes you is an unknown. You can guess that this timeline is going to take you into maybe similar circumstances, into situations with the same people that are currently on this timeline, or into certain states of consciousness which continue your present condition. However, if you change the way that you now approach yourself or your past, meaning you tune into a new mode of observation in which even those same episodic memories, talking about your past self, start to feel differently, and you provide yourself with a higher meaning, which lets you learn the deeper lesson. Release the grip of past attachments. Forgive. Feel lovingly about the value of those past experiences. You can now start to access new timelines, because you can effectively tap into new states of yourself that have already released the grip of those past experiences. This is the ultimate ability to use chronesthesia, or this concept of mental time travel, to time travel into a new version of your reality, which you can imagine is always accessible to you as soon as you start to think differently about your past. To start to play with this concept, imagine what is something about your past which you have never been able to think differently about. What's something that you feel is absolutely fixed in nature and you can do nothing about, and that makes you feel like a victim? It could be something in your personal history or in even the history of the world. something in your own lineage, or something that you have experienced or witnessed, which creates a certain heaviness in your emotional experience. If you're still feeling the weight of that experience and you have this urge to go into that time machine and to change that particular event in the collective history, then you're still feeling that you can't do anything about the weight of that experience on you. You can't see how you may not even need to change the event. You simply need to provide a new perspective to look at it differently. Because as soon as you look at it differently, you change the emotional reaction. You change the way that you energetically are entangling with that past scenario. And as soon as you do that, you feel free. You didn't need to actually change the past or eliminate the imprint of that event on your field, but you can use it to transmute pain into freedom, into potentiality, and a higher perspective that lets you self-actualize because of that experience. From this higher self perspective, we can better understand why we chose what we chose, assuming that every experience was intentional and was necessary for collective evolution. If certain negative aspects of our past are still haunting us today, we're choosing to deprive ourselves of the deeper lesson. We're choosing not to see value in those experiences, and we're choosing to be bound to this condition of suffering, which means we're still choosing to experience the time machine in a negative way. Now imagine if you impose a new kind of time machine into your field of consciousness, which is positive in nature. Meaning whenever you introduce yourself into this new filter through which you experience time and your past self, you see value, possibility. You understand the rewarding nature of any past situation, which affords you wisdom, awareness, expansion, and more experiential value simply because you understand you had to go through even those certain low points in order to get to these higher peaks of awareness. All of a sudden, reality feels totally different. You may feel yourself somatically unwinding those denser energetic attachments and understanding that whatever you're still suppressing or harboring negative emotions towards simply needs to be understood through the perspective of you entering this mental time machine and understanding what is that experience really affording you the ability to understand. The mental time machine can be accessed at any given time, and you're already doing this. When I asked you that question of how do you experience your past, that question was making you hone into what kind of a time machine is currently playing a role in your reality. Are you currently aware of the fact that your perception is the time machine, and that Chronesthesia is ruling the ability you have to access potentiality in the present moment? If you see no potential in this now moment, imagine activating the power of this time machine. It's a higher source of intelligence you can become aware that you have through simply relating with more awareness to your past and to the experience it provides you into expanding in the now. Whenever there is limitation, restriction, pain, denial, or any kind of resentment that you feel creeping into your field, that is a lower conscious state you're choosing to entertain because you don't want to see that you have an ability to move and to shift. You are thinking in that moment, egoically speaking, that the past is dominating your experience, which means you're still living frozen in that past state. Likewise, if you feel like your traumatic past is not able to be transmuted or transcended, if there's something so terrible you've already experienced that it has redefined the way you will ever experience yourself, realize that too is a condition that you have made permanent in your mind. And all of this really has to do with mindset, which is just one factor of the equation. A negative form of mental time travel can be so convincingly imposing of negative conditions that we don't think we have another way to be or to live. Because if we're always used to mentally traveling into the past and identifying only the root causes of our pain and discomfort, we aren't even used to seeing there is another way to rule our field. We're not seeing that we can actually synergize with our heart center to access not just the mental limitations, but the soulful cause for deeper alignment. We can't see that we can actually choose to look at the past and empathize more with ourselves by choosing to lean into what our heart is dictating about that past opportunity for alignment. Ultimately, everything is teaching us that we have the ability to love and to find deeper roots of love within ourselves that we can also relay into our past. We can choose to see that any person that created trauma in our lives can be related to lovingly if we choose to regress into those episodic memories of trauma and actually bring ourselves and them the love that we didn't feel in those moments. What's astonishing is that this actually has a real effect on your past. Because perhaps the most mind-blowing aspect of this entire equation is that your past, your present, and your future moments are all entangled. If these moments of time are really collapsed into one circular continuum, then you choosing to forgive, to release the negative anchors of your past, and to come back and bring love into those past scenarios in which they weren't previously accessible, actually introduces that energy into your past condition. This has the power to heal not only yourself, but other people in your life. You can choose to release the weight of generational programs by bringing yourself into a state of alignment rather than contradiction with those past experiences. So imagine, you having the power to do this means you no longer need to be in the mode of accusation, judgment, or anger towards anyone or anything that created your negative relationship with time. You can choose to heal and transcend all limitations by simply developing a more acute role as a time traveler that brings positivity into negative moments of prior hardship. When we move into a higher dimensional state of unconditional love, unification, and alignment, we become aware of the fact that timing is always allowing us to achieve deeper unity when we choose to be in that higher dimensional level. If you're only in the egoic state, time feels like it is above and beyond you. It's a fourth dimensional construct after all, which means that when you choose to be in a more fifth dimensional state of awareness and unification, you start to unify with time itself. You use time for your betterment, and you understand that divine timing is always at play, meaning that your past needed to be behind you, so to speak, in order for you to understand how to self-actualize more readily in the present moment. Time is never really against you. Time is simply a reflection of how deeply you are able to integrate into your own consciousness. So let it be on your side. Allow yourself to activate divine timing by choosing to be the divine vessel of awareness that lets you understand the masterful continuum of life's events, leading you into a state of higher consciousness.